What happens when you stumble into a Fey world wearing sparkling, forbidden plastic clothes? A dangerous crowboy whose job it is to destroy plastic becomes obsessed with you. These are screenshots from author Lana Pecherczyk's TikTok promoting her new book, The Company of Vengeful Crows. So there's your first question answered. The Dangerous Crowboy book is indeed real. In late September, these out-of-context screenshots captured the hearts of Tumblr users, mainly Tumblr users who are not that familiar with the current Romantasy ecosystem. Sure, we've all heard of supernatural romance, monster boyfriends, magic boyfriends. Many of us grew up with Twilight, but back in the day, it felt like, you know, you had your standard vampire boyfriends, werewolf boyfriends. Those were really mainly the two options. What the heck is a dangerous crowboy? Have magic boyfriend books really mutated so much in the past 15 years that we're having to come up with increasingly niche types of boy? It's all fun and games with the dangerous crowboy till you realize that the latex condom counts as plastic too. Soon, you'll be laying an egg. Average person has 3 microplastics in them. Factoid, actually just a statistical error. Average person has 0 microplastics. Dangerous crowboy, who lives in a Fey world and eats over 10,000 microplastics each day, is an outlier and should not have been counted. Halloween couple's costume idea, girl in a forbidden plastic dress and dangerous crowboy whose job it is to destroy plastic. I usually don't engage with BookTok mockery because most of it is just elaborately feigning surprise that straight women can have kinks, but literally, why the fuck is his job to destroy plastic? Labubus have become an endangered species thanks to overhunting by the invasive dangerous crowboy. Keep your dangerous crowboys inside. They're native to the Feywilds and are a danger to the plastic creatures of this world. Oh good, someone's made a dangerous crowboy account to respond. That's not how it works. I lay the egg. Hashtag mpreg. The dangerous crowboy whose job it is to destroy plastic should leave his frankly toxic relationship with the girl in the plastic dress and start dating my original character, the dangerous seagull boy whose job it is to destroy plastic but in the ocean. First time hearing about the dangerous crowboy. Is he actually dangerous, or is it like closer to inconvenient behavior crowboy? Not up to rigorous industry standard crowboy. OSHA violation crowboy. Not making safe choices crowboy. OSHA violation Corvid male. Changing my Tumblr bio to OSHA violation Corvid male. I'm about to buy and read the Crow Plastic Romantasy book. Help. He recognized her as his mate. She's Australian, so she keeps casually calling him mate as he gets increasingly flustered. I genuinely cannot tell if this book is terrible or brilliant. You're not real, she jabbed him in the chest. In the hard, leather-covered and warm chest. Fairly certain I am. Nope. She squeezed her eyes shut and tapped the phone in her cleavage. There's no place like Oz. There's no place like Oz. Where's Oz? Australia. I guess. This looks amazing, actually. Someone posted a screenshot of Lana Pecherczyk's breakdown of the cover design and said, "You're laughing. He's been in perpetual molt since the betrayal, and you're laughing." Yes, his wings are kind of fucked up because he has been in perpetual molt since the betrayal. He's got blue-tipped black wings, crow family crest tattoo, scars left from his ex-best crow bro's lightning strike, power-enhancing oil slick tattoos, and he's also nonchalant about his pants being undone. Oh. Tell me more. OSHA violation Corvid male. Guy in the corner of a party meme voice. They don't even know that the dangerous crowboy whose job it is to destroy plastic is in a 10-book series about a post-nuclear apocalypse world where Fae are at war with a bunch of humans who just woke up from 2,000 years of cryosleep. That's true, by the way. Romantasy is a phenomenon that I'm aware of, that I've been aware of, but I've never read any of it before. That's right, that's where this is going. I did read the Dangerous Crowboy book. But it's just never really interested me due to the fact that I am critically not heterosexual. I am busy eating glass about the locked tomb and My Chemical Romance with my fellow late 20s Tumblrinos on the Dying Trash website. However, before we dive into this, and we will be taking a very deep dive, I must tell you a little bit about this video's sponsor, Helix. Something mattress sponsorship with a video about Romantasy books. I don't know, you can figure out the joke. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses perfectly suited to your unique needs as a sleeper and shipped conveniently straight to your door. Everyone's different, everyone sleeps differently, which is why Helix's sleep quiz will help match you to your perfect mattress based on your body type and sleep preferences. Based on my results, Helix matched me with their Twilight Luxe mattress, this beautiful mattress that you see with your eyeballs right here. It is their firmest mattress. I do prefer a firmer mattress because of the scoliosis demons that live in my spine. It is very easy for me me to ruin my day if I do not sleep on an optimal surface. Helix mattresses have been reviewed against hundreds of competitors and are the most awarded. The Helix Midnight Luxe has been ranked best overall mattress according to both Forbes and Wired, but the Helix lineup offers a whole 20 unique mattresses, and they recently launched a line of mattress toppers to help you customize your experience even more. So for example, adding support in certain places if you have back pain. These toppers are great even on non-Helix mattresses, so even if you don't have the budget to upgrade your whole bed right now, the mattress toppers still very worth looking into. I've had my Helix mattress for over 3 years now, and I am still sleeping amazing on it. So is my partner and our 2 beautiful baby Binguses. I say this every time, but my cat, if he could speak, would be doing this ad read for me because, oh, here he comes! Mister, has the day finally come? Can you say I love my Helix mattress? He's shy. But he does love his Helix mattress. And if it makes you nervous to buy a mattress you've never tried out in person before, don't worry, because with Helix you get a 100-night sleep trial. You can sleep on this baby for 100 nights before you decide if you really love it. Helix also offers seamless returns and exchanges. There's a 10-year warranty, and there are financing options and flexible payment plans. And of course, Helix will deliver your mattress straight to your door. Shipping is free within the US. I really like my Helix mattress, so if you're in the market for a new bed, go check them out. Now is a great time to do so because they have their fall savings event on, and you can get 20% off site-wide. Scan the QR code on screen, click the link in the description down below, perhaps. And now I return you to your regularly scheduled content. Tumblr still contains multitudes. There are Romantasy book fandoms on Tumblr, but like, I need to, allow me to illustrate a point for you using data, okay? So every year Tumblr puts out data on the most popular fandoms on the site, organized by media type. So we're going to have a look at the 2024 report, which is the most recent one, under book fandoms. A Court of Thorns and Roses, arguably the most popular Romantasy series, ranks 8th, which is not bad overall, but that is 4 places below The Locked Tomb, a series that is celebrated in certain circles, yes, for sure. My house is one of those circles, but it has a fraction of the overall fame and book sales. It is 1 place above Dracula, a novel that has been out for over 100 slutty years, and only 3 places above The Odyssey. The Odyssey of Homer. That's Tumblr. That's Tumblr, my guys. And I can tell you firsthand that I see more Dracula and the Odyssey on my dash, personally, than any Romantasy series. They feel like our estranged cousin. Like, we've been developing in really different directions for at least the past 10 years now, but there's still a recognition there. And I think that's why Dangerous Crowboy is kind of captivating to us. So without further ado, I have worn my sparkles for the occasion, and I'm going to tell you what actually happens in the Dangerous Crowboy book. This is book 10 in a series called Fae Guardians. The Fae Guardians are 12 hot buff Fae men who are all fated to end up with human women. Every book focuses on a different pairing. This is book 10, focusing on a crow shifter named River and sparkle dressed plastic girl. Her name is Blake. Humans destroyed the world 2,000 years ago in a nuclear war, which brought on a nuclear winter. Now there's this magical force called the Well, which is restoring the world. It's not really a god, it's just like a mysterious magical force. A lot of things that happen are explained simply by saying the Well has chosen it or the Well wills it. It's just supposed to be a fun premise. We don't need an extensive world-building explanation. It's fun and magic, okay? Regular hot buff men become Fae Guardians by passing a test to prove themselves to the Well, and then they get to wear cool leather outfits and touch metal and plastic. The metal is more relevant because they have metal weapons, but they're the only ones who can have metal weapons because metal and plastic are human creations which are shunned by the Well. So for regular Fae, it hurts to touch these materials and it like cuts them off from the source of the magic for as long as they're touching it. But the Guardians are special, so they get to use metal weapons and are entrusted with disposing of contraband metal and plastic. Those are the basic facts that you must know. So we enter book 10 of this series, having honestly missed a lot of plot, but I am slowly learning as I begin this book that Dangerous Crowboy is on a revenge mission. River, Dangerous Crowboy himself, he had 2 crow besties, okay? Take notes. Their names were Ash and Cloud. Crow Squad. Crows before hoes. Cloud turned evil. Okay? Turned against him. River's wings got damaged in the decisive final battle of the last book because of Cloud, and now he's stuck in perpetual molting and cannot fly, and all of the healers are confused and don't know how to fix him. And he wants revenge against Cloud for destroying his wings. Cut over to Plastic Girl. The nuclear winter is setting in. The world is actively ending. And here's Plastic Girl, okay? She's strutting down the beach in her besparkled sequin plastic dress. She's strutting down the beach in her heels and her dress, and she is trying to go to her husband's end of the world party. Her husband is like this famous football guy. His name is Jeff. He's rented a big yacht for his end of the world party. And she's trying to find the yacht, but she can't. She's walking down the beach and she can't find the yacht anywhere. So she starts live streaming. I'm picturing an Instagram live stream in my head, but it doesn't specify what platform. But I'm picturing her just like Instagram streaming on her phone, like, oh my god, guys, this is crazy. I can't find the yacht. She's an influencer. She's like a DIY crafting, upcycling kind of influencer. Like, she likes to put glitter and sparkles on things, you know? She's also not like the other 17 to 25-year-old romance protagonists. It never says her exact age, but I would guess she's between like 35 and 40, based on the fact that she says that she has been married to Jeff for 15 years. Her boobs are not what they used to be, and apparently Jeff is kind of mean about it. Anyway, she's wearing her sequin dress, Instagram streaming in the middle of the apocalypse, looking for Jeff's yacht. And she eventually does find it. But something is wrong. Jeff comes out to talk to her, and apparently he has decided that the apocalypse, this is his time, okay, to speak his truth, which is that he actually hates her and thinks she's boring and airheaded and shallow, and he just calls her all of this horrible stuff and says that she's not the person that he wants to spend his last moments with, and he's probably also been cheating on her this entire time, and he gave her the wrong directions on purpose so that she wouldn't be able to find his end of the world yacht party, and then the yacht sails off and leaves her there. She tries to walk back and find her car, but she freezes to death, and she feels a single tear freeze on her face. And then she wakes up wandering down the beach in her sparkle dress again. In the Fae world. This is so random, Blake muttered as she staggered across the sand. Heat from the glaring afternoon sun beat down on her face. Her sequined dress hung in tatters, but her bejeweled iPhone remained clutched in her hand, somewhat in one piece. Side effects of being chosen by the well in such a way include nausea, confusion, throwing up a little black bile. So she wanders into this market. You know, all the Fae vendors are selling their wares and whatnot. And everyone's like, oh my god, girl, is that plastic? Get out of here before the Guardians show up and kick your ass. She's just confused and Australian. Antics ensue. However, everyone seems familiar with the concept of women from the old world suddenly turning up. This is a frequent enough occurrence that everyone's like, ah shit, another one with her stupid plastic and weird rectangle in her hand. Dangerous Crowboy arrives on the scene, and his first reaction upon seeing her, it's just horniness. It's just pure, unadulterated horniness. He gasped, stumbled, stared, and felt his heart ache. She was so beautiful that only a rainbow dared clothe her. But what was that dress made of? Not glass or gems, surely, or metal either. They'd be too heavy to cling to her curves like that, which left plastic. Shit, he wasn't prepared for this. He'd not expected anyone to ever look at him like that again, but the stirring her light had given him was nothing compared to the reaction inside him now. Seismic, cataclysmic. He felt it down to the tingling in the tip of his... Crows are known, after all, to be drawn to shiny things. So that idea has been taken to its extreme here with the idea of very shiny, sequin-covered woman and just insanely horny crow after her. And he's got to arrest her for plastic crimes and take her back to the Guardians. Listen, mate, she said, forcing confidence into her voice. Be straight with me. Am I under arrest? Mate. Dark eyebrows shot up, getting ahead of yourself there. Aren't you, Sparkles? We only just met. It's a figure of speech, and stop calling me Sparkles. His gaze flickered over her body, sending an involuntary shiver down her spine. One look from him and her hormones betrayed her. She hadn't felt this intensely drawn to someone since... well, not even Jeff had made her squirm with a heated look. That dress has to go, River announced. Wait. What? Listen here, she growled, surprising herself with the venom in her tone. Hell will freeze over before I take me clothes off for you or anyone else. Then we get a convenient little time skip by having her throw up black bile and swoon into his arms. She awakes in a nice, warm, soft bed, new clothes. Her sparkle dress and iPhone have been killed off screen. Also, since River just rolled up to the Guardians' headquarters with this human woman, everyone has assumed that she is his mate. Like, she wakes up and they're basically engaged and have matching tattoos that let them feel each other's emotions. Like, they're... literally, she wakes up, her iPhone has died off screen, and she's engaged to the crow. Blake spends a while with the Guardians, you know, meeting all of the other characters, and all of the other human women who came from our world. She like bonds with one of them over Grey's Anatomy. This book is going to contain erotica, yes, but at this point in reading it, it absolutely does not feel like just like a lazy setup for porn. Like, it isn't. Lana has an obvious love for the fantasy genre and would probably be writing fantasy anyway, even if she was with a publisher who wouldn't let her put more graphic sex scenes in it. So there's this big gathering of all of the Crow clans that is happening soon, which is called the Great Murder, which is excellent. River is obviously going, so is his remaining Crow bestie, Ash. So is Blake, because she's River's mate now. So the main villain of the series is this guy named Nero, and they've been fighting him for a while, over various things, but one of those things is this object called the Cryptex. The Cryptex. Ooh, the Cryptex. Oh, it's an ominous sounding fantasy object. It's like this metal tube, and the contents of the tube is nuclear codes, or it somehow gives you access to the last nuke. And they think that the Cryptex is in possession of this infamous crow called the Collector, who is also Ash's evil mother, who like held him prisoner for most of his early life until Cloud and River rescued him. And then that was how their like three-way crow bromance started. As soon as they set off for the Great Murder, Blake and River are honestly getting along pretty well. It's not like this, oh, love-hate relationship, will they, won't they, kind of thing. It's they obviously will. They obviously like each other, and they're pretty honest about that from the beginning. What's holding them back, though, is their insecurities. Okay, they're both deeply insecure and think that they're like ruined and fucked up and unworthy of the other person who is perfect. They get scammed by some owl shifters who sell them a fake horse. The horse was a Kelpie. I hate it when that happens. River has to fight off all the owl shifters, and gets all bloody and sweaty, and Blake's super into it. Then his entire family shows up. They join up with his like immediate family Crow clan before all traveling together onto the Great Murder. Blake calls Ash mate because she's Australian and she just calls people that. But this turns into a misunderstanding where River's family thinks that they're in a throuple with Ash. They're very supportive, actually. The Crows are very, very sexually liberal. There's almost like a slice of life element to this book. It's not a book where absolutely everything is super tightly plotted and everything that happens has significance to the plot. It's like sometimes you meet new characters just for the sake of having a fun interaction. It often meanders in this kind of chill way, but it's never boring. It's never boring. I will say Lana clearly does enjoy kind of just meandering around and spending time in this world with these characters. I don't know, the pacing of it is just kind of intriguing to me. As someone who is having my romantasy virginity taken by this book, I've never read anything quite like this before. This is not a short book. It's 677 pages. And it is self-published, so I do think, were it to go through the kind of editing process that traditionally published books do, there would probably be pressure to cut a lot of this stuff. But I also think this book kind of works the way that it is. It's meant to be this kind of cozy, fun escapism, and these scenes where people are just hanging out and having a laugh with their friends and family are nice. It's the same reason people write fan fiction, I guess. Sometimes it's just nice to hang out with these characters in a capacity that isn't necessarily always super plot relevant. Actually, I realized, okay, brain blast. I had a brain blast. Okay, I realized why I like it so much. It is just a refreshing contrast to these kind of long-running book series, TV series, even movie series, where the writers fall into this trap where they feel like they have to be constantly upping the stakes. But actually, all they achieve is making the viewers kind of numb to it, and the shocking twists become stupider and stupider, and the whole thing just crumbles and becomes total ass. There are truly many such cases, supernatural. Whereas in this book, Lana Pecherczyk's just like, nah. Okay, we're gonna see the main villain like twice. The plot is gonna absolutely inch along for 10 books. Mostly these people are just gonna hang out and work on their interpersonal dramas. She tells River how Jeff brutally dumped her in the apocalypse, and he just gets so blind with rage that anyone could dare mistreat her. He tells her, did you know that crows can see UV? And that he can see all of the special secret colors in her hair, and she's so special and sparkly and shiny to him. She's anything but an ordinary, shallow 37-year-old woman. She's the most gorgeous, perfect woman he's ever seen. He carves a penis into a tree, and they call it Jeff and throw knives at it, and then he explodes it, And then they make out. She gets a bit of a makeover scene with his mom and sisters, and they kind of show her crow clothing and try and help her find something that suits her, and it's cute. And they all talk about sex a lot too. Because crows are very, very sexually liberal, and they know a lot about their brother/son's sex life. Speaking of energy, Lark's eyes gleamed. Wait until you try the courtship windways. They're designed for maximum impact with minimum hindrance. And believe me, Sarah added, our brother definitely knows. She pointed to a small crystal trophy. First place in the aerial courtship display when he was only 17. The older females were tripping over themselves. Blake nearly choked on her first sip. The moonshine tasted sweet yet spicy with a hint of tropical fruit. Don't worry, dear, Ravi said. River inherited his father's gift for physical expression. Her eyes narrowed on the air around Blake. Your sexual aura feels undernourished. Has he given you a proper wingmate welcome yet? Pardon? You know, since you soaring through the clouds. I think you're scaring her, Ma. Ravi caught Blake's expression. Oh, sweet ancestors, he hasn't, has he? I'll need to have a word. Do you have special human markings for mating? Sarah asked, reaching for a jar of shimmering blue powder. Or do you just find each other in the dark? Blake laughed. Some humans get tattoos or wear perfume, but nothing like your UV patterns. If they can't swoop, Lark asked, what did the males do to announce their interest in courting? Some bought flowers or wrote songs, Blake said. Jeff once scored tickets to the grand final. That was his big romantic gesture when he proposed. The sisters exchanged puzzled glances. But if they can't swoop, what did the males do to announce their interest in courting? I think that line made me fucking cackle out loud the first time I read it, and it still makes me cackle. Meanwhile, River is being confronted by Ash and his dad about not fucking enough these days, and what? He hasn't had sex with his new mate yet? Unacceptable in this extremely horny crow family. Tallow stroked his chin. 5 years is definitely a dry spell. Have you seen your mother about it? I don't have a problem, he muttered while silently miming to Ash that he'd stab him in his sleep tonight. And if I did, why in the well's name would I tell Ma? Nothing to be ashamed of, Tallow continued. Why, once your mother and I— For crimson's sake, Dad! River dragged his palm down his face. Can we change the subject? The bastard downstairs works just fine. You call your cock the bastard? Tallow's frown deepened as he stared at River. That's not healthy, son. They get drugged by his family and wake up locked in a room with there's like an enchantment on the lock and they can't open the lock and they're locked in the room until they complete the ritual. The courtship ritual. There is a basket of sex toys in the room and I'm just picturing like completely modern, brightly colored sex toys in this fae world where plastic and metal are outlawed. I know I'm probably not supposed to read into it, but like on a world building level, I want to know what are the sex toys made of? Anyway, Blake and River both think that they're damaged and worthless, and the other person could never possibly want them. Jesus Christ, what are you people, lesbians? This all-powerful well had deemed Blake important enough to drag her across oceans and millennia to be here, but she wasn't important. She didn't matter. Jeff was right. She was a shallow, glitter-obsessed upcycling influencer who'd probably fallen in the water when everything froze. Blake hadn't offered the world anything. All this angst is something that they need to overcome by being open and honest and vulnerable with each other. They will now proceed to fuck for like 30 pages. I do really feel like, like an anthropologist reading these things because it's like obviously not, I'm not the target audience. Nothing is going to shock me after doing my deep dive into Omegaverse. This has somewhat of that kind of like animalistic flavor, mating, growling, claws, wings, etc. It turns out that Blake has a lot of repressed stuff going on. Jeff was very unsatisfactory as a partner and a human. And so she's got, it's all waiting to come out, you know? At first she's very intimidated by River being like 300 years old and very experienced and hot. But as soon as she gains confidence, like she is the one pushing the boundaries a lot of the time. In some ways they're both very conventional cis hets and he's like a big strong monster boyfriend, obviously. But their relationship isn't like super gender role-y in a way that like makes me ick. Nothing about the like gender dynamic in their relationship is like super fetishized or makes me want to throw up. They're actually like very respectful and equal partners in many ways and very good communicators. So anyway, they've broken the spell and unlocked the door. Unfortunately, they emerge into total chaos. The crows are being attacked by another Kelpie And they're all scrambling, looking for this group of kids who wandered off, who they think might be hurt. Crows can't swim. One of the kids has fallen into the water, so Blake ends up saving the kid. But River also ends up in the water after her, and they very conveniently wash up in this cave, which turns out to be his evil ex-bestie Cloud's Trove. Every crow has what's called a trove, which is like their secret private hoard where they keep their crow shinies, and it's like a secret location that they're not supposed to tell anyone. Naturally, a crow's trove says a lot about the life that they've lived, the things that they value. So this is like pretty good find. They're like peeping into their enemy's secret diary right now. Isn't everything going awesome? Well, there is about to be angst. You see, the tea with Cloud. I'm like did you see me almost fall over there? I'm like such a coordinated and balanced individual. So the tea with Cloud, okay, he was in love with this human girl named Rory, but she's not a human girl who came from our time. She is one of the humans who woke up from 2,000-year cryo sleep in the Fae world, okay, keep up. Her dad is the villain, the main villain, Nero, who did sick, nasty experiments to her and sucked out her magical energy with a bendy straw. So then she turned evil and like kidnapped Cloud and tortured him. And then he went a little bit noodles from the trauma and the betrayal of that. But before that happened, River was being an asshole and kind of like pushing Cloud away because he was just bitter that his friend had a mate and like it felt like a threat to the crow group, right? And then when Cloud disappeared, kidnapped, tortured, etc., River was just like, oh, LOL, I guess he finally ran away with her and doesn't want to be friends with us anymore. So he realizes that he betrayed his friend too, and all of this horrible stuff wouldn't have happened if he had just like been a decent friend and been there for him, instead of pushing him away because he was all bitter and jealous that he had a girlfriend. And he has a big breakdown about it in the Trove. But Blake gives this whole speech about how much she loves and accepts River for who he is, and the power of love can heal them. And then they fuck in the cave and do wing stuff, which is very vulnerable for him, right? Because his wings are damaged and he's very sensitive about it. So very vulnerable moment, very character development sex. An argument that I've seen people have online is where I spend time on Tumblr, can you tell? An argument that I see people have is where one person is arguing like sex scenes can and should be deep, and it's not all just, it's not gratuitous smut. And in fact, maybe there was a line actually between like bad gratuitous smut that is just smut for the sake of it, and then good sex in fiction, which is deep and character developing. But then you get other people who are just like, I don't know, write weird porn if you want, go crazy, go stupid, who cares? Write the gratuitous smut. This book definitely seems to subscribe to the sex scenes as character development philosophy. The journey that these characters are on is to heal their traumas and repressive ways through love. And yeah, sure, that's cheesy and something that never happens in real life. The Strange ÆONS YouTube channel does not endorse trying to fix your traumas by getting into a relationship. They've known each other for like 4 days, and also he has magic crow wings. I think everyone reading this knows that it's just like a little escapist fantasy scenario. They arrive at the Great Murder. All the crows are kind of suspiciously looking at Blake like, oh my god, ew. Is that a human? It's kind of fucked up. They're staring. You want me to stab them? River asked, completely serious. A part of her preened at the protective, earnest gesture, but she didn't want another owl shifter brigade situation. And stabbing was wrong. That too. Outfit change. I'm sorry to lose the sparkle dress, but I ran out of time to film the other day, and I really don't feel like putting on makeup and a dress today. So, I'm gonna do this rat mode, okay? I'm gonna finish the summary for you, rat mode. Soon after they arrive at the Great Murder, they witness what is called courtship swooping. A black-winged male plummeted from above, talons extended, trajectory aimed directly at the crowd. Her muscles tensed, ready to duck and take cover, but no one else reacted. Not a wing flared, not a face showed alarm. The predator swooped and snatched a woman examining decorative sundials at the nearby table. She shrieked, her wings erupting from her back, snapping so violently that molting feathers exploded in a cloud. The pair spiraled upwards in a tangle of limbs and beating wings. Blake clutched River's arms. Shouldn't we help her? River's hand settled at her waist, his lips lowering to her ear. That, my treasure, was a courtship swoop. But she's fighting him. Blake watched the woman twisting against her captor's grip. Because that's how their suitability is measured. River's breath was warm against her skin. If she succeeds in breaking free, they're not a good match. Now, because this book is relentlessly progressive about consent, We are assured that this is all just like a public claiming ritual. Everyone is in on it. Crow females are strong badasses who could get out of any situation they genuinely don't want to be in, etc. River's family and Cloud's family are having like a petty dispute about the boundary line between their camps, which is obviously like a small thing that is standing in for a lot of deep-seated beef between these families. Blake gets right in the middle of these centuries-old fae creatures and is like, actually, you guys are all acting like stupid petty children, and we are gonna solve this. So she invents this game, which is loosely based on football, but which involves stealing shiny things from each other for the Crow families to duel each other, allegedly over the camp boundaries, but she's also like, it's a good trick to like force them to have fun together and get over their differences. Alexa plays Supermassive Black Hole. Just kidding, Alexa can perish. I'll play Supermassive Black Hole myself. The game gets pretty intense pretty quickly. A bunch of other crows gather to watch, including some females who are obviously eyeballing River, and he winks at them. The playboy scoundrel. Blake is so jealous. She's just as territorial as a crow. And then they notice a certain someone staring at them from the shadows. Cloud has turned up after all. Slowly, deliberately, he unbuckled his weapon belt. Daggers thudded softly onto the damp earth. Knuckle dusters, a sword, more knives, more sharp things. He peeled off his jacket and then his undershirt. Almost every inch of revealed skin was riddled with ink, the oil-slick power-enhancing kind. At River's glare, a small, almost imperceptible smile touched Cloud's lips. His voice was quiet, but somehow still carried across the sudden absolute silence. Room for one more player. Cloud joins the game, but obviously River is like all in his head about it now. Like, what is going on? This is his moment for revenge. Why would Cloud just show up like this? It eventually leads to them confronting and beating the shit out of each other while everyone else looks on. There's a sense that this could be productive, cathartic, just guys being dudes, solving their problems masculinely with fists, maybe? But as they go on fighting, the emotions start to come out, and I swear, I am this close to writing an essay about like the parallels between this fight scene and the sex scenes. I do think there are like cinematic parallels here between the way that this is composed and the way the sex scenes are composed. I promised you'd never be alone, the truth hurt, but when you were drowning in it, drowning in her, I fucking panicked. The confession tore through him. I was jealous, afraid of losing you, losing us. So I pushed you away first like a fucking coward. Uncertainty flickered in Cloud's stunned eyes. Cloud snapped. He lunged, tackling River hard. His fists pounded down, clumsy and full of desperate, raw anguish. For a moment, River took it. He basked in the corporal punishment. It was what he deserved. Too little too late, his realization had come. But this wasn't the way to fix a break, and he wanted it fixed. He wanted his triad whole again. With a final surge of strength, he flipped their positions, pinning Cloud beneath him. Wings exploded from his back, unfurled, stretched wide, tips scraping the caravan walls on either side of them. This, he roared, is what happens when we don't fucking trust each other, when we don't communicate. He heaved in an agonized breath. I'm sorry. Fuck Cloud. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'll never fly again, but that's okay. I forgive you for ruining my wings. Cloud's gaze drifted over River's shoulders. Yeah, they look ruined all right. Slowly, fearfully, he twisted to see. Wings. His wings, impossibly whole, glossy, perfect feathers, blue-black catching the softer UV moonlight. Reading this at first, I really thought it was going to be that the power of introspection, the power of friendship, perhaps even, was what healed him. But instead, River comes to the conclusion that Blake must have some kind of healing powers. A lot of human women, when they arrive in the Fae world, end up having some kind of powers. She doesn't have any yet, so at this point in the story, they're kind of like wondering if she does or what they are. So now he's theorizing that she must have some kind of healing powers. River is so euphoric about the return of his wings that he kisses Cloud on the mouth in a brotherly way. No homo. Well, he's lived like 300 years. Maybe he's tried some things. Maybe a little homo. We can have a little homo in the Crow-plastic Romantasy book as a treat. Then he immediately looks for Blake, because it is time to finally swoop her like a crow male is meant to. But she's already run away from the fight, distraught. And when he finds her, running through the woods, and swoops her and picks her up, the courtship swoop, she is genuinely mad at him and fighting back because he winked at some stupid sluts, and also because she ran away before the fight ended. So as far as she thinks he just killed a man, consent is key, even in crow swooping. So they land and talk everything out before the next extended sex scene ensues. The Crow boys are back, okay? The Crow squad. The Crow bros. River, Ash, and Cloud. Crows before hoes. I think if I have to pick a favorite singular line from this book. It is crows before hoes. Blake is sort of off screen right now. She's not feeling great. She's got a weird fever. Cloud's like, so you guys want the cryptex? Awesome. I know where it is. Ash's bonkers mom, who we saved him from, does indeed still have it. So let's all go together and get it back from her. At this point, some alarm bells are ringing for me, you know? We saw River work all of his shit out and forgive Cloud and get his wings back, but I feel like he was so caught up in the moment of like his own narrative resolving so perfectly that we never really found out how Cloud feels about all of this. You know, that forgiveness has not been mutual. Cloud sends Ash and River on a bit of a goose chase and then goes and kidnaps Blake. And he takes her to Ash's mom's Trove, where the cryptex is. They are going to get the cryptex. However, everyone now thinks that maybe she has healing powers. He has decided that maybe she can bring back his dead girlfriend because he knows that his dead girlfriend already got into the cryptex and took the nuclear codes and swapped them out with a lock of her hair. So does he think that Blake can just like respawn her from a lock of her hair? That's a little bit crazy. That's a little bit silly. But the in-universe explanation for this is that he is a little bit bonkers. Blake is growing increasingly sick and feverish and is now barely conscious. But River and Ash are hot on their tail, coming to save the day, save Blake, who is actively dying for unknown reasons. But Ash's mom catches them, and in a heroic act of bromance, Ash trades himself for the cryptex. So Cloud and River and Blake escape with the cryptex and Ash stays behind. But then there's this weird scene which implies that he was never quite her prisoner and that they're in cahoots. And they go to see this the other human woman we've never seen before who is kept prisoner in the Trove, who is apparently Ash's human mate. So that's a setup for the next book, I guess. Blake is taken to some kind of a medical center. A lot of the characters from the other books who we met at the beginning are here again. One of them is actively giving birth in the culmination of a subplot that I totally omitted from this summary because a lot happens in this book that I just don't have time for. Blake is dying, having this crazy dream sequence about the meaning of her entire life, and River is begging her not to die. You don't need to fill your cracks with something glittery, Blake, River said, a smile in his voice. You are the glitter. You are the shiny glue that makes broken things whole. Oops, then she dies. But they go, wait, there have been such cases. Perhaps this human is not dying, but undergoing a transformation into Fae. Cloud restarts her heart with his lightning powers, and she wakes up as a magpie shifter. She becomes a bird girl too. I thought magpies were smaller, Ada mused. Not where Blake comes from. His eyes blazed with love and admiration. Australian magpies are the most vicious, territorial, and fiercely protective creatures on Earth. They'll defend what's theirs to the death. His teeth flashed in a grin. And she's mine. Yay. Happy ending for them. Like I said, this was the 10th book in a series. There are going to be 2 more books, I assume, because there's 12 Guardians. And the series is called Fae Guardians, and every book focuses on it. Yeah. But the last 3 books are all supposed to focus on crow shifters, right? So River being one of them. And then the final 2 books, I'm like, okay, so it's the other 2 members of the Crow Bro triad. Like, there's obviously this setup with Ash, so he's probably the next book, and Cloud definitely seems like some kind of a final boss of romance. Like, goddamn, how are you gonna fix that guy? But then he drowns himself in a lake, and that's the end of this book. So consider me on my toes. This book was an absolute roller coaster ride from start to finish. It was never once boring. It is worthy of Tumblr's fascination with it and more. Lana Pecherczyk is aware of and delighted by Crowboy and Plastic Girl becoming a bit of a Tumblr meme. She has in fact written an FAQ specifically for curious Tumblr users coming to her website. Why is Crowboy grabbing her tit? Is he going to pull silicone breasts out? Blake's boobs are au naturel. River is just an unapologetically grabby crow. What about the microplastics in my brain? Will he eat those? I think you'd be safe. Crowboys aren't zombies. I assume Dangerous Crowboy and Plastic Girl can't use condoms, so how do they practice safe sex? Blake and River use a contraceptive elixir. Of course. And although not explicitly stated for this couple, latex is from the rubber tree and 100% natural. Eco-condoms are a thing. The Fae world has 100% latex eco-condoms, confirmed. But I had even more questions I wanted answered, so I reached out to her and asked her if she would be willing to do a little interview, and she said yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Lana Pecherczyk. I am an author from Australia and I write fantasy romance, paranormal romance, and I am the creator of Dangerous Crowboy, I guess. I was just catching up on the memes. Tumblr, they're making fun but they're not cruel. Do you know what I mean?
A lot of people on there I feel like are kind of weirdos, and they don't really feel the need to like bully in a mean-spirited way. They tend to just appreciate stuff that's kind of strange and different.
One of the greatest joys an author can have is to know that people have found something in their work and adopted it. Something that started in your head has, you know, grown and grown legs of its own. I loved it. I adored it. Australians don't take ourselves too seriously a lot of the times, and sometimes, you know, in the romance industry we can also cop it a bit, so we kind of learn to have a laugh and a joke.
How does he even, quote unquote, destroy plastic? Like, by what mechanism? I don't know, he eats it? He's not even destroying it. He's building a nest that's 80% bread tags by volume. Oh my god. Crowboy aquapanded nest. Complex world-building answer for how fairy magic is able to biodegrade plastic. Oh, he fucks that shit apart. Seems like we've decided on, I don't know, he eats it. You will see him referred to often as Dangerous Crowboy who eats plastic. He does not eat plastic. In the canon, I think the real answer to this how does he destroy plastic question is complex world-building answer. First of all, we're playing with fire here. This is the Goncharov website. Tumblr will just make some shit up and then run so far with it, doing my part by eating the sequins from my own dress before going to the Fey world so that crowboys don't have to. While I applaud your desire to make the environment more hospitable to Cornyx periculosus pure, you're actually doing more harm than good there. Humans don't possess a gut microbiome that is capable of breaking down plastic into something harmless. That's why crowboys are unique. So you eating the sequins would actually be making their job harder by forcing them to remove low-level plastics from your scat for a while. Instead, if you find yourself in the habitat of dangerous crowboys, remove all your plastic objects and bundle them together before leaving them in an open area for them to find.
I love how thoughtful everyone is. Like, they're thinking really hard about a lot of this stuff.
It is so full of creative people who kind of love to write and they love to improv. There's this whole meme called Goncharov. Goncharov is supposedly a lost Martin Scorsese mafia movie, and Tumblr will post like essays about it as if it's real. It's not a real movie. We made it up.
I don't think I've ever met a social kind of group that was as cool as Tumblr.
Yeah. No, a decent amount of people are actually like reading the book now.
I've had readers come up to me and said, oh, my kid came up to me the other day and, you know, said something about a dangerous crowboy, and they're like, that sounds familiar, you know? And they were like, oh, they realized I read those books already.
So how did we get here? What events had to line up in this Earth's timeline for us to end up with Dangerous Crowboy whose job it is to destroy plastic? I've been thinking about this. I've successfully had some thoughts about this, so I'm going to share them with you. The current romantasy scene, genre, ecosystem, thing, it's a real quirky baby of a lot of different things that have had to come together. The shared ancestor of most modern dark or paranormal fiction is obviously Gothic novels. Dracula, Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde. This is where we get a lot of the ideas and creatures that still feature in horror and fantasy today. Gothic novels could have romantic plots, but crucially they never had monsters as the love interests. Monsters were still scary at this point. Another thing happening completely separately is that throughout the 20th century, thanks to cheaper publishing methods like pulp novels and even fanzines, we see the evolution of these kind of saucy, smutty, dangerous stories written by and for women. And they're really, really different from the romance novels of the past. Early romance novels were very focused on, like, I guess, enforcing morality, whereas these more cheap, lowbrow kind of stories were able to be more unashamedly dark and weird. And this eventually culminates in the absolute explosion of a subgenre called bodice rippers in the 70s and 80s. These books would feature a dominant bad boy love interest and an, at first, pure and unwilling heroine who would eventually be convinced to submit to her dark desires. Bodice rippers also take place in historical settings, which I would argue has a very similar appeal to using a fantasy setting. Then vampires became sexy. Everyone reluctantly say thank you, Anne Rice. For that and only that. There are many times when we say fuck you, Anne Rice. But we do, as vampire freaks and goths and monster fuckers, kind of owe her our lives. Yes, I know it's not actually as simple as Anne Rice inventing sexy vampires out of the blue in 1976, but the history of the vampire genre is a whole other massive tangent that it's not what this video is about. I do maintain that Interview with the Vampire is the turning point that is crucial to the development of romantasy, and I can argue that in detail, and I perhaps will at some point in the future. Interview with the Vampire, which was the first book in the Vampire Chronicles series by Anne Rice, came out in 1976, and throughout the 80s and 90s, vampires only kept getting sexier. These decades are full of films that immortalize that in pop culture. First, there's gorier, scarier adult vampire films like The Hunger, Lost Boys, Blade, the adaptation of Interview with the Vampire, obviously. But the more humanized, lovable vampire eventually becomes such a staple of pop culture that it even gets a teen TV series, the massively popular Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The groundwork had now been thoroughly laid for Twilight to come out in 2005, the movie based on it to come out in 2008, and change the brain chemistry of a generation. Supernatural romance became the thing in young adult media, across all mediums. You had books, TV series, movies, everywhere. This was the era that I grew up in. I read Twilight when I was 9. My mom had to give me the sex talk because somebody warned her that they have barely described Mormon wedding night sex in Breaking Dawn. Supernatural romance may have been a young adult fiction craze, but it did not just appeal to kids and teenagers. There were always adults who were really big fans of it, and these adults, they had adult imaginations, you know, they had some ideas about what might be happening when things kind of fade to black and sex is implied. Sometimes they even wrote it down on lovely websites like fanfiction.net. Besides just like paranormal romance, how would you describe your writing?
I love getting to the heart of the emotion of this stuff. It's also spicy, my book, spicy romance. So I've been told it's slow burn spice.
I grew up in the trenches of fanfiction.net. And a lot of these labels, I think, kind of come from earlier fanfiction culture. I find that really interesting because I've done a lot of work on, like, fanfiction and fan culture and generally just, like, niche fan writing, and this feels like a cousin of it.
So many stories that you might not even realize that massive stories started out as fanfiction. Like, I definitely know so many that have become big hits, you know. I think it's because fan fiction is where the real relatable connection happens. People want to take it a step further and live in that world. They don't just want to spend time, you know, with the characters as they are. They want to kind of, you know, really like assimilate in it, and it's all like all their fantasies come true. That's the part that I love about them. They are to the core of, you know, what makes people sometimes.
Oh, that's so interesting. I completely agree with that. I don't know, those kind of just like raw, unapologetic human desires.
The rawest that a human can be.
There's no shame on fanfiction.net. Nobody has any shame. It's very honest. The chasteness of the source material in this era of paranormal romance, I think, left a lot of readers, adult readers, unfulfilled and really let fan communities on the internet thrive. And while most were happy to play with this idea of making their favorite teen books explicitly pornographic in the shadows, one brave trailblazer changed it for all of us. I'm talking about E.L. James when she wrote 50 Shades of Grey. It was honestly such a huge cultural moment when 50 Shades of Grey came out. Source, my memory. I remember this. I was a weird fandom kid when the bomb of 50 Shades of Grey was dropped on society. It was this public and violent collision of young adult fiction, because it was based on Twilight, with explicit pornography. It was fan fiction becoming mainstream and popular literature, and people's moms were reading it. Ew! The secret was out. Okay? The secret was out. Women were reading porn on the internet, and they would do it in public and pay money for it too if given the opportunity. There is, of course, also the fact that 50 Shades of Grey is about BDSM. Whether it's a good depiction of BDSM is up for debate. Actually, I think the debate is mostly settled. I think most people agree it's a bad depiction. Regardless, I think it introduced a lot of readers and writers and sex havers to the idea that sex can be more than just penis go in. There's a lot of creative stuff out there that the average person, the average sex haver, is not doing. And therefore sex scenes in fiction can be really quite the journey. They can have whole plots of their own. So the people who had fallen in love with young adult paranormal romance in the 2000s and early 2010s had now grown up, maybe spent some time in the fan fiction trenches along the way, and they wanted more.
I think I was always on the hunt for something that was a little bit different. A lot of the fantasy stuff, the romance just wasn't cutting it for me. You know, I'd always get to the end of the book and go, oh, is that it? You know, and then And it took me so long to realize that that's, you know, I wanted more about the relationship, the emotional journey of these characters. Even the YA stuff, you know, it was, you had a bit more of that relationship going on because I think emotions are so high at that age. And they had a bit more freedom to talk about stuff like that. And then I guess as that generation grew up, you know, and it was like, there's nothing out there for me.
It's interesting you say that because I kind of was growing up when there was this huge YA paranormal romance craze. Like, I'm 27, so I was like a middle schooler when Twilight came out and everyone was losing their minds about Twilight. Then the idea of there being, I guess, spiciness, as they say now, kind of more like sexually explicit content, the idea of that kind of colliding with a lot of these tropes that we associated with YA when I was younger has been really interesting. Like, how do you think that happened? Like, who realized that these things could combine to make what is now an extremely profitable genre?
I think it's all to do with dopamine, right? So you know that there are certain things that you get excited about, and like I've also got a lot of action and, you know, monster hunting and things like that in my stories, and it's all stuff that we learned has kept the pages turning, I guess. The world was ready for it. And like you said, with the fan fiction, it was a natural flow, and what people weren't getting in the general market, they went there to write it. And so many of those fan fiction authors ended up, they're big names now, you know? So
the factor that was absolutely crucial for Romantasy to become what it is was the internet. The place where unconventional desires run free and innovation is not constrained by what publishers think will be profitable. You don't need a big publisher with hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on marketing to have a successful book anymore. You just need to go viral on TikTok. BookTok, as the kids say, is responsible for the popularization of these books, which defy a lot of the categories that publishers used to put books into. Enter Sarah J. Maas. A Court of Thorns and Roses. The first book came out in 2015. The series is still massively popular. That's why we're doing the Fae world now. It's the book that established a lot of those tropes and expectations that are popular now. The writing style of a lot of Romantasy books is very simple. We're talking about writing that is no more complex than your average YA novel. It's very easy, very accessible, but that's combined with much darker themes, swearing, graphic sex that isn't allowed in YA. Romantasy is easily one of the most profitable genres right now. Many of these books, certainly the most popular ones, are traditionally published, but many of these writers are also able to make a good living self-publishing their work for online audiences, such as Lana Pecherczyk, the author of I always just want to call this book Dangerous Crowboy. The Company of Vengeful Crows is what it's actually called. It's not called Dangerous Crowboy. The popularity of Romantasy has definitely blurred the lines between genres, between what is YA and what is adult. Another effect that Romantasy has is that I think it has really functioned to normalize women reading porn. When 50 Shades of Grey came out, everyone was like, oh my god, middle-aged women are straight up reading it on the bus, that's so scary! And the reason why I think that is so shocking, or part of the reason why I think that's so shocking, is because 50 Shades of Grey doesn't look like what it is. It looks just like any novel. Romantasy books don't look pornographic either. They look subtle, normal, and people are finally seeming to accept them as normal.
I used to work in a bookstore, and I was front row seat to seeing how the back end of that end with all the traditional published authors would come in, and that's where I kind of started to see some things that I didn't like. You don't get to choose your cover. There were things I heard that some authors had to sacrificing the story so that it was more marketable. Even just writing the book and having to wait a year before it's published, or someone else in control of your IP. And the way bookstores work is that if the first book hasn't sold as much, then they buy less of the next one and the next. So it's kind of like downhill. I also heard how much traditionally published people make versus your own. And when I thought, you know, I can do a lot of the stuff, including the marketing, which most trad people have to do themselves anyway, unless they're massive, you know, those small amount are big. I thought, if I'm going to do it all myself anyway, then why am I giving away the money to someone else and the control? And I met at that time some indie authors who were doing amazing and are still doing amazing, and I thought, they're making a living out of this, and nobody even knows their name in the bookstores, you know. It was one of those weird random things that I thought, what what we perceive about this industry is not the reality sometimes.
I've seen way weirder things out there than Dangerous Crow Boy.
Yeah, I know there's some stuff out there, but even then they find their niche, right?
Yeah, they do. They
find
do.
their tribe.
And that's what I love. I love,
Yeah.
I don't know, this kind of just like weird, unique things that find their online communities and find appreciation. It gets my brain going. It's like, I don't know. I like talking about it and analyzing it and kind of being like, why does this make people tick in the way that it does?
Yeah, why does it connect them? And I think coming from a place like Perth, I think we're the most isolated city in the world. For any reason, if we've been isolated, that when you do find a tribe, that everyone kind of either gets joy or anything out of the same thing, it's something to celebrate, I think.
Is Blake the first character you've written who is also from Perth?
He's the first Australian I think I've ever written.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's something like 80%, 70 to 80% of my readers are from the US and Canada. When this book came along, I was just, I think it's time. It's time to share a bit of Australia.
People on Tumblr at least have like loved that. Because I think there's a stereotype that some people have in their brain with romance books where like the narrator, the protagonist is always kind of as much of a blank slate as possible, and like people are supposed to be able to insert themselves into this role and imagine their romance with sexy crowboy or whoever. But Blake has such a personality. It's such a refreshing contrast to that stereotype, because obviously it's not always true. Thank you so much to Lana Pecherczyk for taking the time to talk to me, even though we are 12 hours apart on opposite ends of this planet. And also for writing a book that drove Tumblr so crazy. It prompted me to pay attention to Romantasy for the first time ever in my life. I do think it flew under my radar this long, due to the heterosexuality. However, it is a phenomenon that is very adjacent to a lot of my other interests. I think it definitely deserves a video on this channel. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you even learned some things. And I will see you in another video very soon.